More than 460,000 NCAA student athletes compete in 23 sports every year. And with each tackle, run, throw, flip, slide, or dive, there's a chance of injury, and head injuries can be particularly serious. You've heard the term before, concussions. So what are they? A concussion is a traumatic brain injury caused by a blow to the head, face, or any other part of the body that transmits force to the brain. It can happen to anyone at any time. That means you too. And when you think about sports that cause concussions, don't just stop at football. Concussions can happen in any sport or activity. Cheerleaders, pole vaulters, and other athletes get concussions too.
I've had 4 concussions over the course of 10 months. You would think that me playing softball, me playing a sport where it's not really heard of that 2 people hit each other in the head, clash each other in the head, like football, for instance, where you hear about head injuries all the time, that you wouldn't have a high risk of head trauma. But any sport you play, anything you do really, you have to be aware of your head, aware of the position you're putting yourself in.
In a concussion, most of the time you don't get knocked out, but that doesn't mean you haven't been injured. A concussion literally shakes your brain and affects how it works. That's serious. What happens to the brain when you get a concussion? Well, your brain bounces around in the skull, and chemical changes occur in the brain, making it more vulnerable to further injury. That means once you get your first concussion, you increase your chances of getting another one. So, what's it feel like to have a concussion? Well, not all symptoms happen to everyone, but early symptoms include possibly losing consciousness, headache, feeling dazed or dizzy, vomiting, memory loss, feeling like you were in a fog, and loss of balance.
As soon as I went up to head the ball, the girl accidentally headed my head instead of the ball, and that's all I remember about that game. Like, after she headed me, I don't remember anything else after that. I mean, I blacked out for a little bit. It was probably like a couple seconds. Like, it wasn't terrible, but when I did wake up, I couldn't see. Like, it was blurry. Why do I feel like this? Why can't I remember things? Like, why don't I remember anything after my concussion? Like, that's what I struggled with the most.
The first one that I had was completely different than the second one. The first one, neither were very overly dramatic. I never lost consciousness or anything to that extent, but they were both completely different. The first one was a little bit more dizziness. Second one didn't really feel a lot of those symptoms.
It's important to remember not everyone shares the same symptoms, but if you're having any symptoms at all, here are some steps you should take. Then, let the experts make the call. Report any symptoms right away. See a doctor or athletic trainer. Come out of the game for further monitoring.
All athletes are taught to be tough. They don't want to let their teammate down. They don't want to let their coach down. And so when they do have that occur, they tend to hide it. They're not going to help, our team by being 50% or 30% or even 20%. If you do have any symptoms at all, report it. It's not worth any kind of severe brain damage down the road for you to play one more play or play one more game.
With a concussion, you may not feel any symptoms immediately and maybe not even for several hours. But if you received a blow or jolt to your head or upper body, you need to get out of the game and get checked out. Even if you really want to keep playing. Let's say it's an important game or it's your final season. It may not be the best thing for you or your team. Remember, always report your symptoms to an athletic trainer, a doctor on the field, your coach, or even your teammates.
Once a student athlete has been identified as to having a concussion or possibly having a concussion, we immediately pull them to the side. We take their gear away from them. We pull them from play. And we do a really quick evaluation, which is a sideline evaluation, which is a very simple test, asking them to do some recall questions, asking them to do just some light functioning, then we can make a determination if they have been concussed. If they are concussed, we immediately pull them from play. They are not to return that day, and then a further evaluation will come later with the medical team. Most student athletes are able to return to play, but there are certain circumstances where if you don't report those symptoms immediately and you take a second hit, whether it's a minor hit or a major hit, as the concussions progress, they get worse and worse and worse, so that you can actually have long-term effects that will affect just your quality of life.
Remember, it's better to miss one game than the whole season or even your entire athletic career. So listen to the experts and let yourself recover, because going back too soon potentially puts you at risk for further injury. And there are emotional symptoms connected with concussions as well, such as irritability, depression, anxiety, difficulty sleeping, and even anger.
Everything like looking up at the sun, or every time I looked into the light, just talking to people sometimes really gave me a headache. I was just very irritated.
Sitting in a dark room, not really talking very much, not really wanting to do anything. And it wasn't because I was told that I had to stay in that area. That's because I felt the best when I was there. Going out, bright lights, a lot of people talking, it just made me upset, made me irritable, made me angry.
A concussion might result in a drop in grades in school performance. They can also cause long-term physical damage, including persistent headaches, difficulty with balance, light and noise sensitivity, and difficulty concentrating.
Think about it. Back then when I was playing, you don't take it as serious because, you're going to class, you're practicing, you're lifting, getting your bell rung and having, the concussions and throwing up afterwards and stuff like that. It's just all part of it. You don't really think of it. Looking back now, in the long term, it's just not worth the side effects, especially the ones I'm having with insomnia, depression, anxiety, not being able to remember things. So I think it's important to go ahead and take yourself out of the game.
Today, we are more aware of the damage a concussion can cause. This awareness and concern for a player's welfare is shared by coaches, trainers, and teammates. So, how do you create a supportive team environment? Encourage teammates to report if they are injured. Report the injury for them if they cannot or will not. And remember, you are reporting for the team.
Some of the guys noticed I was off and I couldn't talk really. I was, bothered. I had a migraine that I thought it was. And they called over to the trainers. They came and got me and I had a concussion.
When you have that type of support, when you have that type of community around you, it makes it a lot easier to come up here and put yourself at risk each and every day when you know that the guy or girl that's playing beside you has your back when you say, hey, I don't feel well.
We obviously want to take care of you first. You have to report to us when you have any type of symptoms, and most of them don't want to tell you. They want to stay in the game. But listen, your brain is something that obviously is very sensitive down the road. You've got to take care of it now. So if you have any symptoms at all, report it to us, report it to the trainer. We'll get you out of the game and make sure we check on you.
It may be frustrating, but there's no standard treatment or time frame for getting over a concussion. And while you've probably done neurocognitive testing before the season, you'll have to do it again after your concussion. Because medications cannot fix a concussion, what can you expect for treatment? A doctor visit, rest and time, and neurocognitive testing. After a concussion, when can you play again? There are 5 gradual steps to follow to help athletes safely return to play, provided you're not still having symptoms. Step 1, light aerobic activity. Step 2, sport-specific exercise. Step 3, heavy non-contact activity. Step 4, full contact practice. Step 5, return to competition.
I had to do light training for about a week, but after I first got my concussion, I was able to play that next game. I didn't miss a game.
They kind of ease you back into things, especially if you have a lot of time off. You ease your way back until they see that you're back to yourself, your normal self. You back physically playing the way you play.
It came back that I had some side effects that we were pretty concerned about, so decided that the rest of the season I wasn't going to play.
Be sure to listen to your body as well. Remember, you're the ultimate boss of when you are ready to play again. What happens if you return too early? You risk further injury to yourself. You risk letting the team down because you cannot play at your best. And you risk not playing again if re-injured.
If you do not report your concussions and you do not take immediate action to make sure that you are properly cared for the long term, you could end up not only losing your game, not only losing your season, but you could lose certain sections of your life and how to function as a human being.
Sports is awesome. Everybody loves it. It's a game you want to play, but in long term, there's a lot more than just sports. You know, you're gonna have to live a lot more time. You have family, kids, and you know, one day, you know, your kids are gonna be like, Daddy, you know, why did you do this? Or, you know, so you really just want to make the right decision at that time, which it is hard, but it is very important, I think.
Right now, you're a college athlete. That's the short term. You're a athlete in high school. You're travel ball, whatever your sport is. That's very short term. The long term is having the use of your brain for a job, for your family, for everyday life.
Bottom line is, we want these young men and young women to make sure that they take care of themselves, that we take care of them, and that they're safe. And we don't want them to carry any long-term injury into the rest of their life.